Summoners, it is Lucia's world and we're just living in it. She's easily the biggest thing going on, but we have a lot to talk about with all of these units, and let's just jump right in with Light Season. Elise is a premier nuke right now, and I think she is just absolutely fantastic. We talked a little bit about this, but so many of the nukes right now, of the ranged nukes right now, are legendaries and seasonally locked, and it becomes an issue. Like, you constantly have to swap them out, and this is the exception, and she does very well, and you're about to watch her absolutely demolish Kato, which makes my heart happy. Now, she really does need Katria to do this, but you need Katria right now because Omni-Tank Bulk has jumped dramatically. We just got Brave Dimitri in the form of a Forma, we've got Kato, we've got Lucia, who we'll talk about in just a second, but Summoners, you need power to take that unit down, and let's show a quick replay of why. I really should have shown a Katria ball here, but I had a lot of fun with this one because it has a lot of the great nukes and she just handles them so easily. Summoners, what can I say? I mean, this unit just does everything except she doesn't let you speed stack, and that is going to be her weakness, period. A lot of folks, the way they are countering her is by having some sort of premier melee nuke. That is difficult to do at times, but understand that stuff like Brave Seliph and, I mean, especially Brave Crom, if you've got enough support for them, then they can take her down very easily. And okay, very easily is a stretch there. But understand that that's kind of the thing that a lot of folks are touting, is that she may not have a long life because it is tougher to speed stack. What I will say is that in Aether Raids, it is easier to speed stack than in most modes, and I think she is going to be a mainstay there for a long time. We just talked about it, but with the increased bulk, you're just not getting as much out of these calves as you need. And there can be exceptions. If you guys can afford plus 10s, I can't. Although maybe you can after AHR. But yeah, that's about enough of that. I want to talk about one more thing, and that is hit and run. You notice this isn't like hugely up, like this isn't skyrocketing through the roof or anything, but it's something to pay attention to. And the big thing is, with Katria balls becoming more common, your ability to move around and maneuver and hit and run is greatly improved, along with a lot of the toys they're giving us, like Leo. The ability to basically have a tactics room in 2 lanes is huge, and that influences a lot of things and your ability to get away, and I believe these are a lot easier to run when you compare them to something like a Gale Force team, because Gale Force teams do take a lot of thought if they have a Summer Edelgard counter. She makes everything easier, but most teams are compensating by having either blue frontliners or a blue near save, and that stops her in her tracks a lot of times. So this is another option for you for player phase that can be very good. You do need to find a unit that is able to punch through somebody on turn 1, but there are a lot of possibilities there. I would very much look towards lethality though, and keep in mind that Yuri is still there, and honestly, still good. All right, we got to talk about Elamine. I'm going to throw on a Bolt Tower Clear because I think this is fantastic, and keep in mind these things do 52 damage right now, and Krania is just about to have a field day with this team. But let's go back to Elamine, and the thing is, we talked about last week how she dropped in value because there were so many different things that you'd need to false start, and that is still true. But we have an additional wrinkle to that, where we have units like Lucia who kind of don't care. That's not completely true. There are a lot of, you can rig your Katria ball to go specifically against her, but understand that specials are a big way that Katria balls function, and that means you need to retool them. And in the meantime, right now, there isn't a whole lot of adaptation to that, and so that means Elamine isn't doing a whole lot. It's possible she comes back, but the problem with her as a unit is she's kind of a one-trick pony, and we've talked about that a lot as we go along. I don't believe she's really good in a lot of seasons outside of Anima, and let's be honest, she's had a year-long run. Like, it is a reign of terror, and it's about time for things to start changing and headed back the other way. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to pierce damage now, and Summoners, this is just not a unit that is as dominant as she once was, and I have a feeling we're going to see her fall off even more as time goes on. But I want to talk about another unit that I feel like somehow is just gaining in value, and that's Ashe. This is an interesting archetype. I feel like there are really two archetypes going right now. One is the Catria Ball and the other is the Ashe line. I don't have New Year's Ashe, so I can't build this one. I am showing a player named Muman's team, and he is an excellent follow on Twitter. You should definitely check him out. I always enjoy seeing what different crazy things he's doing. What I will say, now we're about to throw Lucia up against him, and Lucia's really good. It is very difficult to escape the Lucia / Bolt Tower season unscathed. She's about to win this, but just barely. I believe she has 2 HP at the end of this, which is nuts. Like, outside of bonus season, this unit is going down. And this is done without a Catria Ball. And one of the big things with this is that Ashe is also a great melee user, and so can go in and smack whatever unit is there in the face, and most of the time survives. But I think this is a fantastic archetype. If you have New Year's Ashe, you should definitely look at building it. If you don't, you should probably look at summoning for her. All right, we got to go over Chaos Season. This is always fun for me. I don't think you should be taking Chaos Season too seriously, and this is great, and Femordis is amazing in this mode. And the thing is, you don't have to worry about stat stacking, right? Because you can't. Like, offense doesn't get the additional attack and speed from all of the mythics there. So keep that in mind and use Femordis and have fun with him. Also, look at Erica struggle. So weird. Normally she would just absolutely blast this unit and wasn't able to. Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about is sack plays and summoners. So the big thing here is there is a lot of frustration in the community over these because you see so many of them, and I am not innocent of this and have definitely gone into the Discord and just ranted and raved at how terrible sack plays are. Understand a lot of times these players are just frustrated and are out of ladders and have nothing else to do. But the reason I have them up is because they've gone up in frequency, and a lot of that's because we've gotten better at building defenses. If you're not familiar, a sack play, you're watching it now, but they have purposely put out Sita and tried to take on Brave Seliph, which they know won't work, but Sita will take Seliph's HP way down and bring the rest of the team towards them so that they can go in and take units out. Now, it's not going to work in this case, but it does a lot of times, and my only loss in this season was a sack play, which made me cry. But your defense needs to plan for these and needs to have solid follow-ups, and we've talked about it before, but the bulk of your individual units has never been more important in any season. It is less good to have glass cannons, or better said, you need to choose your glass cannons very carefully and make sure your other units have enough bulk to at least take a hit. It really knocks these kind of teams off balance when it takes 2 hits to kill a unit as opposed to just 1. The last thing I want to talk about is Catria Balls, and I have come to believe that this is the leading defense in Chaos Season right now. I think this is the way that you get the most consistent wins. I understand that there are a lot of things going on. But anyway, as I was saying, the thing with this defense is you are able to take out a lot of the bulkier things that come after you. And yeah, I think it's the only way we're going to be able to do this with units like Lucia and like Gateau. As I said, you have to retool things a little bit so that they're not reliant on specials, but I still think Catria Balls are probably going to be your best bet for this upcoming Chaos Season. Time to talk about Arena. Real quickly, off to the side, you're looking at reserve teams and how I'm using them, and this is just a quick PSA, but you should be using reserve teams. They make Arena Assault a lot easier. You put one together, they don't counter everything. I mean, this Camilla team is not going to be able to take on every team, for sure. Like, for instance, if they had Duoduma. But the teams they do take out is essentially like a free win, and they just make your experience a lot more fun. But I've talked enough about this. We need to talk about skills. We need to talk about Fire Flood Dance, which is amazing because we actually have a skill for dancers. I don't know how many more times I need to say this, but build a dancer for Arena. I'm not kidding. it just makes things easier, and Fire Flood Dance on them makes things absolutely incredible. Summoners, it's like putting a Brave skill on your unit. If they outspeed somebody, they're going to attack twice with that Desperation. It's fantastic. Another thing talking about skills is the chill skills that were, for a little bit, the only way you could get that tier 4B skill have gone down in value because of Robin, and we should probably shift over and talk about him. The thing that I'm seeing that is interesting is that for the first time, and I know this has been the case, but it hasn't been as defined, we have a definite meta in Arena because of these bonus units, because people have to use Robin in order to get all of the fun things he gets, like the free death and the no fishing. Like, all that's fantastic, and people want to use that. So we're going to see a ton of Robin, and that's going to be continuing on. The thing with Robin that you want to look at is that grand strategy that makes him so powerful that, honestly, I slept on just a little bit. Like, this is an amazing unit. You are going to need to plan around units like this. I got stalemated by this unit a few times. Like, he is very, very good. I'm a huge fan, and things like Harsh Command have come more into the Arena meta, whereas they weren't there before because debuffs just weren't as big of a deal. So be on the lookout for that, and understand you do need to plan around these units when you are building your Arena teams, and you need to be paying attention to what they're bringing. And that hasn't always been the case. The last thing I want to talk about is plus 10 legendaries. Wow. Summoners, I cannot say enough how much the floor has just dropped off of those things. This team right here that you're looking at would have made tier 21, would have kept tier 21 this last week. That's insane. That Reinhardt doesn't have a dual skill. That Aversa, that is an old unit, and I know I threw Aversa up there because a lot of you have her and you have her built up. You're not going to use Aversa on Grand Strategy week. That's terrible. But you could from a score perspective. What this means is you need to be looking more towards ranged units that you can get onto your team, because it's possible now. This is a lot of fun, and again, a lot of this is because you're using that bonus legendary and you don't have to fish. But Summoners, this is tough to argue with. Like, this gives you a lot more flexibility in your teams, and in my opinion, makes this a whole lot more fun. A lot of this is because the real recent change in the threshold, where they essentially added 200 slots to who gets into tier 21. Now, it's a percentage, it's not exactly 200, but understand that that's a huge deal and has rippling effects through a lot of different things, mainly tier 21 and 20.5. So Summoners, you have a lot more flexibility than you think. The last thing we need to talk about is Summoner Duels, and I try to do these in advance and try to collect gameplay over the month. And Summoner Duels makes that very hard because things seem to change so fast. I originally was going to go in here and just sing Lucia's praises, and I played with her a ton because I wanted to get an idea of what she was about and what she was doing. And I have to say, I am not... Okay, she's very good in Summoner Duels, but she's not the most amazing meta-breaking unit that people are touting her as. There are definitely counters to her, and I think the bigger deal is all of the things that are there to support raid bosses. I think that's kind of incredible. Yeah. Robin is the latest, and I think he's absolutely fantastic with Grand Strategy. I was bringing Yoon in. You can actually see it on this team here. And if I would run into a Robin after I Yooned the entire team and debuffed them for like minus 13 total, yeah, that team was then absolutely all powerful and would stomp me. But we're seeing a lot of, whereas before it felt like they were really buffing up Catria balls, right now, instead of building up those warp type teams, they are really bumping up raid bosses and giving them a lot of juice. And I think that's fun. The other team that you're seeing a lot of, actually, no, we need to talk about AoEs. Okay, AoEs have definitely dropped in value. And this doesn't just have to do with Lucia. Like, Lucia is really good, don't get me wrong. But understand that one of the other things that's happened is the tier 4 dodge skills are amazing. even Duoduma and the Dragon meta and Dragon Wall it is very clutch. You can run Miracle on those units, and yeah, what can I say? A lot of the AoE based meta that we had been seeing coming on so strong has started to wane. Gateau is a little piece of that, but I don't love him in this season. But yeah, we're probably going to see a season where he somehow comes into the meta and just absolutely stomps things, but I don't foresee it right now. Still, that's something to look out for, and if you have an AoE team, just know that it has to be paired. Like you have, what I see a lot of is AoE Seliph and then paired with Legendary Nana. Obviously another Nana swap out is Spring Carla, who is a unit that is very fantastic, and you can use her. The next thing I'm going to show you here is, now this is Lind from last season, and this almost exact cav line is something that you can use in this current map as well. You swap out Carla for Lind, but Lind in these maps where you've got a big block in the middle and it's a huge stretch in between, she helps cavs out a ton, and you can see a little bit of it in here, but this was the team I used, and the ability to switch sides so quickly was just absolutely punishing to the other team, and a lot of that was due to Lind and giving out no follow-up and giving out the ignores terrain buff. She is a fantastic unit, as well as having piercing damage and being an excellent nuke in her own right, and summoners don't sleep on her. Don't sleep on all of these calves though. Like, there are a lot of good calves coming out, and specifically melee calves, and that is a meta that has seen a renaissance lately, and I'm here for it. I'm a fan. The last thing I want to talk about is finish skills, and is it a coincidence that I worked Kranya in here again? This was my Binding Worlds unit, and it was a splurge, and I love her. This was a team that was pioneered by Ryuna over in the Chinese community, and it's fantastic, and it really highlights how finish skills, and a lot of these old units in general, how they're being revitalized by new skills. Kranya in particular, with her refine and the true damage and healing from the finish skill, is fantastic. Pairing her with someone like Duma and chip damage on everyone, and yeah. Have I blabbered on enough? This is a lot of fun, and it means that just a little bit, we're starting to see some of the old units start to creep back in. I mean, we just had Ashru in the competitive Fade Discord get La Rochelle to rank 1. So keep in mind, it's not all meta cheese. It's still mostly meta cheese, but there's starting to be some wiggle room with some of these neat skills. And with that, I'm going to direct you to my old archetypes video, and I still feel like it holds a lot of water. Now, the Asha warping meta definitely changed just into Catria balls, but even still, it definitely has a balance, and it teaches you about how the different archetypes balance each other. So go check that out. Summoners, I hope you're having a good one. Take care, and schedule an appointment with your FEHology real soon.